Hello viewers. Today we're going to watch me, someone who knows how to program in C#, attempt to program in a language I don't know, which is Python. My son told me about this website called LeetCode, where they have problems you can try to solve. So I said, hey, let's give it a shot. Let's do some Python programming. And the course was called Introduction to Pandas, which sounds kind of fun. But it turns out Panda stands for Python Data Analysis Library, which isn't so much fun. Anyway, here I am just kind of fiddling with the settings, trying to make the font bigger so that my old eyes can see it. So the challenge here, well, the challenge is that I have no idea how to program in Python. So I take a look at this problem. And it says create a data frame. So I go right to the hint and I'm like, give me a hint, but it's not much of a hint. It just says use the built-in functionality. So I guess problem one, what's a data frame? So a data frame is, well, it's a tabular data structure. So you can think of it like an Excel spreadsheet or a two-dimensional array, or, you know, we'll call it a data frame since that's what they call it. So I'm sitting here pondering to myself, looking at this first line of code, or actually the code on line 3, def create data form. No idea what this is. It looks kind of like a function, but I don't know. So I go back to the question here. I have to take in this data. It gives an example of what that data looks like. I'm looking at it now saying, kind of like a list with a couple of variables in each record, and I have to make it output like something at the bottom. So basically I just have to take that data they give me and give it some new columns. So I don't know how to do that. I can imagine that I'm going to use, so I'm using this PD because we imported pandas as PD, and I'm just kind of wondering, and if I was using Video Studio, it would give me these hints as I type the code. It's called autocomplete. It tells you what's available to you, but that's not available here. So now I'm really on my own. I'm looking at, so now I just run it. I'm like, okay, if we just run it, what happens? And it shows me an error because I put some blank spaces in the code. It thinks I was trying to do something, so I get rid of those spaces and I run it again, just to see. And now it says that it expects some code to be in this function. And I'm like, oh, DEF, that means this is a function. Okay, so any code I'm going to have goes into this function. And I know that Python doesn't use curly braces like C#. You just indent if you want to show that it's part of that function. So I indented 4 spaces. I'm not really sure what the standard is for indentation. And I'm sitting here pondering. I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do here? I'm supposed to add some column names. It's not giving me any clue. So I think, okay, I'm going to use ChatGPT, not to solve this problem, but just to help me with some syntax. So now I say df for data frame. And I'm thinking, okay, pandas or PD must have something I can use here. And here's where I chicken out and I go to ChatGPT. And what do I ask it? I say, what is a data frame? So I don't even know what a data frame is. That's how new I am to this. What is a data frame in Python? And then it tells me. But then it starts giving me some examples here. Different ways to use it. And because I have a pretty good knowledge of how to program from C#, when I look at this, I can say, oh, okay, I see what they're doing here. They PD dot, what am I looking at here? Well, whatever it was, I figured it out. So I'm going back. Now I'm jumping around. So I see that PD dot data frame, and I'm loading the student data. because the student data is what's being fed into this function. So now it says you did not return. So I'm looking at that function that's got the equals arrow PD data frame. So that must mean in Python world that it's expecting you to return a data frame. So I just guess and I say, well, maybe I'll just use the word return, and that seems to do the trick. So it says, hey, you ran successfully. That's pretty good. I wrote code that worked, but it didn't have the student ID and age column headers that we were expecting. So now, like, how do you do a header? And I'm just guessing. I'm like, well, maybe you say data frame.headers and then you assign it. So I give that a shot. Once again, Microsoft would help me autocomplete this. Now I'm just copying and pasting to make it easy for myself. It's a little disconcerting not to use semicolons to end each statement like a real programming language, but that's what we're stuck with. And then I run it. You know, it's kind of like throwing spaghetti against the wall, see if it sticks. That didn't do it. Instead of student ID and age for column headers, it gave me a 0 and a 1. So what do? I wasn't sure. So I'm thinking, well, maybe I don't have to do the equals thing. Maybe I just declare it this way, just say headers, and it didn't even like my syntax there. I'm like, okay, I don't know the syntax for setting a header. So at some point, I think I go ask my friend ChatGPT what the heck a header is. No, I'm not ready to give up yet. I say data frame. I'm thinking maybe I just slap those headers into the data frame. Is that how you do it? Oh no, I gave up on that idea. Well, I gave this a try. No, it didn't like that syntax either. So just to review, I'm trying to, I know that I can load the data into a data frame, but I don't know how to get the columns to be named student ID and age like they're asking. So I return to ChatGPT. I start looking at the examples they gave me. And I'm pondering because this isn't exactly what I'm looking for. But I'm not going to use ChatGPT to help me solve it. I'm just looking for syntax. Okay, so that's like if you have a data frame and you want to put values in the column, but these don't really seem to be answering my question. So how would you name the columns? I asked ChatGPT. And I don't want to name it at creation, I don't think. This looks interesting. You have columns and then you declare what the columns are and then you add it to the data frame that way. But I continue reading because maybe that's not what I want to do. I'm like, oh, look, you say data frame columns and then you just say it equals that. That looks very promising. So I jump back over here and double check, I guess, to see what I'm doing. What am I doing? I don't think that's the right syntax. What am I doing here? Oh, it was the right syntax. Good job, Tom. You did it. So now I hit the submit button, which actually, that was all testing. Now I ran it and it said, hey, I'm successful. Do you want to start the study plan? Sure, let's start it. And so I'm looking at the results and I'm like, wow, I did it. Mine ran way faster than almost everybody else's. Did it in 420 milliseconds. But as my children will tell you, this is not a 420 friendly house, and I'm the kind of person who says, well, if I can do it in 420, I can do it even faster than that. So now that I know I have a solution, I'm like, how can I improve this solution? Which is kind of like how I code in general. You know, step 1, make it work. And step 2 is make it fast. And then step 3 is make it pretty. And I usually skip step 3 because that's a job for young, cool people who can design things and have tattoos and whatnot. So now I'm like thinking, how can I make this run even faster? Maybe I can consolidate some of these steps. So what am I doing here? I guess I'm just thinking, more thinking. And the solution I came up with is referring back to something I skimmed over earlier. There was, I must have been checking ChatGPT on another screen, because this was that adding the columns to the data frame declaration. And you see how I just straight up return it rather than start to set it something. So now I have fewer lines to run. It's kind of consolidated. Okay, now I'm checking. Okay, so I did that from memory. Now I'm just checking to see if I got it right. And I'm so confident that I'm right that I hit the submit button. And it turns out that I am not right. It blows up, which is embarrassing. Maybe I shouldn't have been so confident about my programming skills. So I go back to ChatGPT. I'm like, what did I do wrong? It's so easy. And then I realize that in that pd.dataframe, where it says columns, it should say columns equals columns. Okay, I haven't figured that out yet. I go back and I'm like, still, what did I do wrong? I'm looking all around. And when the answer is right in front of me, it should be columns. Oh, I think that, so what I'm thinking now is that I should be using single quotes or double quotes. Maybe there's something wrong with that. I still haven't figured out why my code blew up. And it says it doesn't matter because it's a free-for-all in Python. You can use single quotes or double quotes. So that doesn't answer anything. Yeah. So I go back and I run it. And I say, it just doesn't work. What could it be? As viewers, we all know what the problem is. It should say columns equals columns. The suspense is killing me. When will I figure it out? I'm still pondering. Come on, Tom, in the past, you looked right at it. But as promised, I'm not asking Mr. Chatty to solve it for me. I'm just asking it for syntax. So right now I'm saying value 4 does not match 2. I have no idea what that means. So I'm looking at the examples. Still looking. And then it dawns on me. Columns. I have to set the columns equals to columns. So maybe naming it columns wasn't a great idea. It's a little confusing. I should have named it something else. But columns, the thing, student ID, age, equals columns. Now I run it locally because I don't want to fail again. I say, okay, that works. And then I submit it. Now remember, I was trying to beat the time of 420. And I did. 321 milliseconds. So now I'm feeling very proud about myself. I've faster than almost everybody else. But then when I look at memory, I use more memory than almost anybody else, which I don't think is really something to celebrate. But once again, step 1, make it work. Step 2, make it fast. Step 3, use all the memory because memory's cheap. So I call that a success of my first stab at doing pandas in Python. I hope that you enjoy this adventure, and I will make another one soon.